Hey there, just finished recording with Craig Caserta, episode number 262. If you don't know Craig, I don't know what's wrong with you because everyone knows Craig. Craig Caserta is a fixture in our industry for, I think, 25 years, maybe 30 years. I first met him, I believe, at some point in the 90s at C Factor. He was Bob C's protege, young guy on his staff, and just really liked him from that moment on, and have known him throughout most of his career. He's now at CT, where he is the VP of production in Las Vegas, and loving life there. And so we had a great talk about family and fun and work and the industry and touring and all kinds of stuff. So I hope you enjoy it. Episode 262 on Geezers of Gear. Hello, and thanks for joining me today on Geezers of Gear, episode number 262. Today's podcast is brought to you by Main Light, a national dry hire rental provider specializing in supplying the latest lighting and stage equipment technology. Their extensive rental inventory includes moving lights, truss solutions, consoles, LEDs, and an array of weather-resistant IP65 rated fixtures, perfect for outdoor venues, whether for theater productions, outdoor stadium events, or TV film broadcasts. Main Light is the partner you trust with the gear you want. Committed to quality and reliability, Main Light also provide a robust selection of used sales options to their clients. Each item is meticulously maintained, owned by Main Light, and comes with a 60-day depot warranty, providing you with confidence in your purchase. Strategically located across the U.S., their 4 locations include Teterboro, New Jersey, Wilmington, Delaware, Nashville, Tennessee, and Las Vegas. They combine the vast resources of a national company with the attentive, personalized service of a local provider. Discover how Main Light can equip your next event by visiting mainlight.com today and get a quote through their comprehensive online ordering platform. And today's podcast is also brought to you by our friends at Elation. Despite the immense amount of IP-rated entertainment technology on the market, there have been no IP-rated data distribution devices to provide the required infrastructure for shows and events. Obsidian Control Systems has changed that with the launch of Netron IP66 devices, the world's first IP66 range of signal distribution for entertainment applications. A 2023 Plaza Innovation Award winner, the Netron IP66 range blends the proven chassis and connector technology of Elation's market-leading Proteus range of weatherproof lighting fixtures with the Netron data platform. Netron IP66 devices excel at managing complex networked lighting systems in wet or dusty environments and are compatible with all other manufacturers' lighting control systems. Avoid potential cost associated with equipment failure, water damage, or downtime due to subpar protection against the elements. Check out the Netron IP66 range today at obsidiancontrol.com. Welcome back to episode number 262 of the Geezers of Gear podcast. And it's great to see you. Thanks for coming. Appreciate you. And by the way, I forgot to say, but don't forget to like and subscribe wherever you're watching or listening to this. It really does help us when you like and subscribe. So whether you're on YouTube, you can subscribe to us on YouTube. You'll always get the latest announcements, clips, etc. And also you'll know when the new podcast comes up. So whether it's YouTube, Spotify, Apple, whatever it is, please like and subscribe. And every once in a while, even post a funny comment. It really does help us, and we appreciate that a lot. So have you seen episode 261 yet? Hopefully you have. Lori Rubenstein is an amazing woman. She's really dedicated most of her career to these boards and to really moving the sticks forward. You know, she's always creating policy and helping people, and it really has been a theme for her career, and we appreciate her very much. Of course, she told us a lot about the behind the scenes organization, and even, you know, I didn't know that she started as a ballet dancer, so it was really cool to hear. Please go back and listen to episode number 261. And of course, you know, we're still getting victory laps from Miss Sarah Burney, who is our producer, who's actually away on tour this week with Blink 182. I'm sure we're going to have some good stories next week to tell. But she went and did a 1-week tour in, I believe it's in Ireland, Scotland, and England. And it's just maybe 4 shows or something. I don't even know the details that much. But of course, we miss her this week. But she's still doing victory laps for her first episode of The Leading Ladies, which has been very well received, and we're very grateful to everyone who has been so kind, and including people reaching out to sponsor it. So we didn't intend to have any sponsors right away on it until we could kind of get our feet under us, but you know, Sarah, I guess, has had a really good coach, and so she hit the ground running with her podcast. So it's really great. I'm enjoying it, and she's enjoying it, and the audience appear to be enjoying it too. So thank you. What else? I did want to mention and give gratitude to Mr. Rob Koenig, who is out with Metallica doing stadium shows, of course. So Rob invited me. I'm up at my house in Canada, in Alberta, and Metallica was coming through Edmonton, and he invited me to come and see the show. And, you know, I've seen pictures and videos and everything else. And of course, the rig looks incredible on pictures and videos, but I can tell you, you know, going to see it, I'm so happy I did it. I was kind of like, you know, a big stadium show, like me and people don't always fit in the same place. But I'm really, really happy I went to see it. First of all, the band were incredible. Like Metallica, I believe they're all in their 60s, and not that that's dead anymore, thank God, because I am now 60. But because, you know, just the nature of that music and how hard and heavy it is, and the band were incredible. You know, and I constantly pick on Lars in particular because he has an interesting meter, you know, and I'm a bass player, and following Lars sometimes is a little more complicated than following your normal drummer, because Lars kind of pushes some things every now and then, and it's like, where's that actually happening, that shot, you know, because he kind of pushes it. And he's very consistent with his push, though. Like his mistakes are very consistent. He does them every single time. So, you know, it's just the way he plays. But, you know, I've never really appreciated Lars. And just going to see him and being as close as I was to see him this time, the guy really is kicking ass out there. Like, I mean, again, a guy in his 60s probably. And he's a small guy. I didn't realize how tiny he was until I was standing next to him backstage, and I was like, whoa, that is a little dude. And but he is kicking ass. That guy puts every ounce of his energy into the show, even though they're in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. You know, like this wasn't Los Angeles or New York. And really, really impressed. Super impressed. First of all, with the band. But then secondly, obviously, the sound was incredible. And so Metallica, I guess, own all their well, at least the speaker boxes. I don't know how much of the sound system they own, but they own the speakers. And which, as I recall, is it Meyer? I think it's all Meyer. It's an American brand. I believe it's Meyer, if I remember correctly. And, you know, the sound was incredible. And, you know, I had to move away from the subs because I was pretty close to the subs right at the front of the stage. And it was like rattling me to my core. But yeah, the sound was amazing. The lighting, of course, was incredible. The stage layout, the design, the whole creative that they put into these towers and stuff, brilliant. You know, that's Dan Brown and team, I guess. Um, Koenig's lighting design and his execution of the lighting, including how tight all the shots were and stuff, incredible. Really, really great. But oh, and by the way, you know, I may be an idiot, and I'm sure there's a lot of people nodding right now, but I have never seen a remote monitor setup. And so this was a new thing for me. And, you know, I brought a couple guests to the show, and Rob gave them a tour, and that's one of the things I want to talk about. But we went under the seats, the stadium seats, to where they had, you know, Video World and all this stuff, but they had Monitor World. And I was like, what do you mean Monitor World? And so they've got video of all of the people in the band, and they're watching to see if they get any of that or this, or my guitar is too loud, whatever. And they're taking those commands and adjusting the monitors, in-ear monitors, for the band. And I had never seen it done remotely like this before. So it was really interesting to me. And again, maybe I'm old school. I'm a dinosaur. I'm used to the monitor person being at the side of the stage. So on the stage. And so anyways, that was really, really interesting. But what I wanted to talk about, so in our industry, it's so easy for people to get jaded and to just like roll your eyes and go, oh God, not another this or that or whatever. We become very jaded, and myself guilty as charged. I accept. But Rob, I had no idea how amazing Rob was as far as taking care of his guests. And, you know, again, this was Edmonton, so it's not like Rob had hundreds of friends bugging him to come see the show or anything. It was, it was pretty sparse as far as guests were concerned. But, you know, I had two friends with me. I had a friend and his girlfriend, and Rob just grabbed them and decided, I'm going to give these people the full treatment. And so, you know, he went and showed them the lighting front of house, which was on the top floor, and he's all by himself up there. And then the audio front of house, and, which was a little more crowded, lots going on in there. And then took us under the seats, and again showed us this whole Video World and monitors and everything else, introducing me to every single major person on the tour, all the engineers and lead people and stuff, which was amazing, great, fantastic. I enjoyed it. But then the coolest thing happened. So we get to the remote follow spots, the Roby follow spots, and I hate to say this, I hate to admit it, but I forget the girl's name who was responsible for all the follow spot operators, but introduced her to my friend and his girlfriend. And she grabbed the girlfriend and said, hey, do you want to try it? And she brought her over to one of the Roby follow spots while Pantera was on, one of the opening acts, and showed her how to operate it, showed her what was going on the screen, and explained to her there's a light fixture in the rig that is associated with this follow spot controller, and you're seeing a camera from that light fixture. The light fixture is aimed at one of the performers, and you're able to move that light fixture just like a normal follow spot would. And she was blown away. I mean, she was just like, she's still talking about it, and it's 4 days later or whatever. And, again, we're jaded because that's not something that I would have done or would have been impressed by myself personally. Like, no, I'm good. I don't need to operate a follow spot. I'm good. Thank you. But for my friends, it was incredible. And Rob just every step of the way was like a kid in a candy store. Like, he was just showing everything to all these people, and he was so proud of it for good reason. And, all I can say is hats off, attaboy, Rob. Like, I know so many people out on tour and have known many of these people for 30 plus years. And not very many go out of their way the way you did to take care of these guests. and I appreciate it so much. They appreciated it very much. By the way, it was my buddy's birthday, so that's why I was taking them to the show with me. The hospitality was just incredible, and I'm so grateful for that. And thank goodness there are people like Rob Koenig out on the road who are willing to go the extra mile and just give people, we always talk about moments on this podcast. And for those two people, that was a number of amazing moments. Like, I could probably ask them if they remember the first song Metallica did or the last song they did. They might not remember that, but they'll tell you every minute of that experience before the show started. So thanks again, Rob. It was incredible, and we appreciate it very much. And just thought it had to be mentioned. So, speaking of awesome people, today's guest, Craig Caserta, is originally from New York and is no stranger to event lighting. With more than 20 years of experience as a lighting designer, programmer, Craig has worked for a diverse range of productions, including concerts, corporate events, trade shows, touring, television, film, and DVD shoots, providing both lighting design and programming. Craig is also at the forefront of the latest technologies, working with key manufacturers in developing and testing new products. Drawing on his years of experience, Craig focuses on customer service and providing his clients with creative solutions. His current role is VP of Production at CT. And off the script here a little bit, I will tell you, I met Craig, I believe, way back when he was at C Factor, near the beginning of his career, probably at the beginning of his career. He was a shop guy at C Factor, and I liked him then, and I really like him now. So please welcome Craig Caserta to Geezers of Gear. Mr. Caserta.
Hello, sir.
What's happening, man?
Just another great day. Lovely weather out here in Vegas.
I'm so happy that my producer, Sarah, who's not with us today because she's out on tour with Blink 182 for a week, she spammed you to death until you finally submitted and said, okay, I'll talk to Marcel again. So I appreciate that.
I want to talk to you. I just say, I'm not big on the talking about me in general.
Oh, geez. Well, I'll talk about you. You can just nod your head or do this, I'll talk about you instead. Yeah. No, I mean, honestly, you've been on once, so we're not going to spend a huge amount of time talking about your background or anything like that, because we already know it. People have listened to your first podcast and know that, how you started and your days at C Factor, and God rest his soul.
Yeah.
And all that stuff. So I want to talk more about what you're up to today and some other things. And I actually wanted to get your opinion because in the intro, right before we recorded this, I was talking about an experience I just had last weekend. So I'm up at my house in Canada right now in Alberta, and Metallica was coming through Edmonton with their big stadium tour. And so Rob Koenig said, hey, Marcel, you should come see the show. Dan Brown, hey, you should come see the show. And so I was like, well, and I'm sitting here going, I don't love going to shows anymore because I'm old and I've done it for so long, and I just don't like crowds.
On this day off.
I don't like crowds as much as I once did, But anyways, I really wanted to see this rig, I wanted to see, I liked the whole way that they did in the round in a stadium, and I just wanted to see it for myself, and I wanted to give a big hug to Rob as well. And so I made the drive up to Edmonton, and it was my buddy in Edmonton's birthday, so I brought him and his girlfriend to the show with me. Mm-hmm. Rob took care of us, but Rob went above and beyond. And so what's that?
That's Rob. Yeah.
Yeah. So I've never been a guest of Rob, but, Rob grabbed my two guests. I'm jaded. I've been to thousands of shows and it doesn't matter to me and I don't care. But my two friends were just completely given the red carpet treatment, right? And one of the biggest things he did was he took them under the seats to remote monitor world and video world, and all the Roby follow spots were down there.
Yeah.
And So I forget the girl's name who was in charge of all the follow spot operators, but she was amazing. And she grabs my buddy's girlfriend and says, "Hey, you want to give it a try?" And she's like, "What?" And she goes, "Well, these are the follow spots. You know, the guys who usually hold these things and turn them, they look like big video cameras almost, but they're follow spots." So she explains the whole thing, puts her on one of these follow spots for the opening act, Pantera, and she's standing there controlling a follow spot while the girl's telling her what to do and stuff. And, you know, these two, like her and her boyfriend, they'll never forget this. Like this was a moment for them. And Rob was just so cool about it. And I can't remember the last time that I had a host take care of my guests like that. It blew my mind. And so
similar experience not too long ago. And again, because we're jaded, like we don't realize how cool that is for other people. And so Pitbull, Enrique, and Ricky Martin doing the trilogy tour. And they come into Vegas. And so I've worked with all those artists. So I know everyone on the tour. So me and the wife go with a couple of friends and take them backstage and the whole thing, and just watching them and the way they enjoyed it. And it was like, you remember why you got into this business to begin.
Right.
And then you see and like, they were so enamored with everything going on backstage. And then we, amazing seats, and they're watching the whole show and asking questions throughout the whole show. Oh, those lights and this and that, and, asking all the questions. And meanwhile, if it was just me sitting there, it would be the same as you, just like, okay, another show. Okay. Yeah. Great.
Yeah.
Not appreciating everything like we once used to, because it's been so long that you just lose.
Totally true.
The magic,
Well, you know what? And if you didn't accommodate them the way you did, it wouldn't have been as special for them. Like if you just said, here's your tickets, go find your seats, have fun.
Right.
They would have still been appreciative. They got free tickets to a great show, right? But these people thought that that's all they were getting. Like my guests thought they were just going to get in the door and go to their seats and watch the show like you do, right? Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden they've got working passes slapped on them and they can walk wherever they want to walk. So they're using the backstage bathrooms. Like that alone blew their minds. The fact that they didn't have to go stand in line in a 70,000 person stadium to go to the bathroom. They were just like, what? You get to do this all the time? Mm-hmm. I'm like, I wouldn't go if I didn't, I can't do it like a pedestrian anymore,
my friend's wife, who had come with us, when she put her working pass on, she kept the backing for it. Oh. And she peeled it off, and I was like, oh, yeah, there's a garbage right over here. And I went to grab it. She goes, oh, no, because I'm going to put the backing on afterwards.
Yeah.
So she peeled it off,
That's
put the backing back on it so she could save the pass.
Yeah.
Well, so that was cool.
I appreciate even people in the industry who save all their passes, because I've thrown every one away that I think I've ever had, like they didn't mean enough to me, and they do now. Like now I wish I had them all back, but it's like Sarah, if she was here, you'd see like behind her camera, she's got every, laminate that she's ever had in her entire time in the industry. And it's a bunch of them. And I know a lot of people do that, but I didn't. So
one of those, I've kept all of them.
Oh, really? Good for you. I wish I did. I wish I did. I didn't,
Yeah, they're just sitting in a box somewhere. And, one day when I'm, 80 years old, I'll look through and reminisce and remember everything.
Go through with your son. When your son's 18 or 20 years old, like he's too young now to really appreciate it, but my son's 20 and we talk about some of the things I've done or do or whatever, and he appreciates it now for sure. Now he gets it. But yeah, I mean, again, just shout out to Rob, because it was just really cool what he did, and the level of enthusiasm he had in doing it. It wasn't just like rolling his eyes and going, okay, another fucking guest, I got to go show him stuff.
No, I'm sure he enjoyed it more than your guest did.
He really seemed to.
He's such a good dude. Yeah. Blew out that guy.
Yeah. Yeah, no, he blew my mind. He's on a different level than he was before that show for sure, because Like I said, I hadn't been a guest of his at a show before, and it was really cool. So anyways, with that said, so you've got a new gig.
I do have a new gig. Yeah, it's the office gig is definitely a lot different from the touring gig. That's
Yeah,
for
yeah,
sure. Um,
yeah,
but
yeah. I mean, so what's that?
appreciate.
What's that like? I mean, like, so obviously it's probably easier on your personal life because,
Yes.
it's not like, honey, I'll see you in 3 months or whatever.
Mhm.
Um, I know how madly in love you are with your son, and that would be really hard. Like leaving my son was always harder than leaving my now ex-wife, which is probably why she's my ex-wife. But
100%. Leaving him was definitely harder,
yeah,
and he's definitely the reason why I first came off the road and took the office job.
good
And
for
it
you,
was,
man.
it was
That's a good
during COVID.
reason.
It
Yeah,
was during COVID. I wound up had 3 months off, and I was one of the lucky ones because we were able to go back and do game shows without audiences. So I was able to do some television stuff. But in the 3 months that I was home, me and my kid built a treehouse together,
I was
and
going to talk about that because
and,
that blew my mind. You were
I
one of the
was,
coolest side project dads that I think I saw
yeah,
on the
I mean,
entire internet.
and I was sitting there and I'm like, I missed the first 9 years of your life because he was 9 at the time. Like, all right, well, I'm kind of digging being home and doing stuff with him. And then I went back to work in June, and from June through December, I was home for 6 days.
Yeah,
I'm like, I'm not okay with this anymore. Like, after spending all that time with him,
yeah,
so then I wound up, taking the office gig and was over at Vault for a while
yeah.
and did that. And now just recently has switched over and now I'm over at CT. But being able to go to all of my son's Taekwondo tournaments and
Yeah.
just hanging out with him every day and having dinner with the family every night and having weekends and being able to plan and, you know, the uncertainty of touring and shows of I don't know if I can make plans in 2 months and I don't
Yeah.
know what I'll be doing that weekend or whatever.
That's a
Like,
really tough thing about our industry.
yeah. So that has been a huge change and I mean after 30 years of being on the road, I'm enjoying not being on the road now
Good
and
for
being
you,
able
man.
to have that family time and being
Yeah.
able to plan
Well,
and spend.
you said a lot in there. Like the first thing, um, I during COVID, like I saw it go both ways. I saw touring people who spent a bunch of time suddenly with either their wife or their family or whatever,
Mhm.
decided I really need to get back on the road. And then
Right.
the opposite, which is what impacted you, is, hey, I really like these people. I really want to spend more time around
Yeah.
them. And I'm not saying because you go on the road means you don't like your spouse or your kids or
No,
anything,
no.
but it's a lifestyle that you
Right.
you desire, you're addicted to, whatever it is. Like some people just can't be still. They got to be out on the road,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And but I saw people go both directions on that one, and it's an interesting view.
Yeah.
Um, but I wanted to talk about this treehouse for a minute because we talked about it on your last podcast, but I mean it was a little extreme.
Yeah. Was and it was never planned to be like there was
Yeah,
no that
yeah,
was that's why I think that's why it became what it became because there was no plan
yeah,
and we just made it up as we went along and it was like well hey let's do this now and all right let's do this and it just
yeah.
became this monstrosity of a tree
Well, I mean,
house.
it was lighted and electrified, and I think it had Wi-Fi and cable
It
TV
does.
and the whole
It
thing,
has
right?
Wi-Fi. It has air conditioning. It's
Oh
got
my
a
God.
47-inch TV.
It's
Yeah,
nicer than most people's apartments in New
yeah,
York,
yeah. And
Uh,
the kid loves it. Him and his friends go and play in it, and and the best thing that I did was the air conditioner is Wi-Fi. So if his friends are coming over, he can turn on the air conditioner from
oh,
his
that's cool.
phone, so
That's
that
smart.
especially in Vegas, like it's 110 degrees out, and
Yeah.
like there were a couple of weeks this year that was 120. So he'll get the AC running, get it to cool off. So by the time his friends get there and they go up there,
It's nice and cool. Yeah.
blistering, and so So
like, what are they doing in there though? Because he's what now, 12 or 13 or something?
oh yeah, he'll be 13 in
So
December.
maybe he's not in there watching porn with his buddies yet. Maybe they're still
He
watching,
doesn't have he doesn't have the ability on that. No, he's got Apple TV up there. That's it.
Yeah,
So,
trust me, he's got the
you know,
ability. They all have the ability,
yeah, yeah, it's all in the kit now these days.
Yeah, yeah,
But no, they'll go up there, they'll watch Netflix and they'll watch
yeah.
TV shows. They'll play
That's
some video
awesome.
games
That is
and
so cool.
Nerf battles and all kinds of
I thought you
stuff.
were going to tell me it's
Well,
Airbnb now, and you're making, $1,000 a week
yeah,
off Airbnb from it.
I've had a few people hit me up that they wanted to rent it out for LDI, and they just
Oh,
want
that's
to
awesome.
it's during LDI.
That is so cool. That'd be pretty fun, actually. I'm staying in Craig's treehouse.
Yep.
Yeah, that's really funny. Yeah, I mean, again, like I loved so many people's, sort of COVID projects, and yours is the most memorable for sure. I mean, it was just like outrageous. But are you extra like that in life, or was that just a thing that you and your son got a bit carried away?
I'm kind of extra like that in life.
Are you?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. At least that's what my wife tells me. Like I don't do anything small.
yeah,
If I do something, I can do it big.
yeah.
So,
Not
but
to the Dearson level though, right? Or
I don't
yes,
think anyone can do it to the Dearson level.
because
Like that's a
he's
level of its own. Yeah,
he's
that's
extra. Yeah.
yeah,
I mean that freaking the Humvee. It's
yeah.
just like, what are you doing? You know?
I mean, it's a garbage truck, but
Yeah.
yeah, he's in a class on his own.
Yeah. Yeah. I love the guy for it though.
Yeah,
I mean, everybody can be normal. Only one guy can be Patrick Dearson.
that is true.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's pretty
yeah.
hilarious.
I
So
don't
then,
get the same as much as I would like, even though we live like 20 minutes away from each other.
yeah. So your office is right across from the stadium, right?
It's right across from the Raiders training facility.
Oh, right. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we're over in Henderson, over by the M Resort,
Right.
which is more of a landmark that people would
What
know.
I remember Chris Asen used to always post pictures of his view or whatever, like of the Raiders training facility and
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
So that's the only reason I remember that.
It's a lovely 12-minute commute from my house.
Nice.
Yeah. So
That's
that
cool.
works out well.
That's perfect. Yeah. And so obviously CT is an amazing company. It's a great opportunity for you for not only career advancement, but for a career, just to
Yeah.
be in a company like that, working on the stuff that you work on there with the gear that you get when you're in CT. And it's
Mhm.
just a killer opportunity.
Yeah, I haven't been here for long, but so far, like, everyone that I've talked to, I know a lot of people that have worked here for 10, 15 years,
Yeah.
anywhere between 1 year and 15 years. And everyone who's worked loves the company. Everyone that I've met there, everyone's been great. The
Yeah.
gear in really good condition. They keep it in good condition. So far it's been fun. It's been nice.
Yeah. No, it's great. I mean, congratulations on that. That's obviously a really, really cool move for you and for your family. I mean, it's a lot of security and, your family can kind of exhale knowing that you're not going to grab the carrot dangled by, whoever, right? Ricky Martin, hey, we're doing a world stadium tour and, you can have your own bus.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
that's fun.
Well, that's sort of one of the pitfalls with the gig life is that you feel obligated to always say yes because
Yeah.
as busy as you are, there's always in the back of your head you don't know if the phone is going to ring after this gig, even though you know that it will. You
Yeah.
still fear, so you
Yeah.
always feel like you have to say yes, and if I say no, someone else is going to go do it, and then they're not going to call me anymore, and I'm going to lose that client. So you're definitely a slave to the shows.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because that's sort of that's the attitude that kind of drives most people in the industry. Like if I ask, people who love touring and wouldn't do anything else, like Cosmo Wilson,
Mhm.
if you ask Cosmo, what's one of the biggest things that got you to where you're at? And he'd say, I always say yes. I say
Right.
yes to everything and then figure it out, you know? And that's how he's basically guided his entire career in touring lighting, and it's served him well. For other people, I think it's burned them out and destroyed them as humans, possibly.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, you're right. It's a disease where you say yes to a lot of things, and before you know it, you've killed a marriage, and your kids don't know who you are, and all that kind of stuff. And that's the ugly stepchild, I guess.
I used to always see it was like the 5-year plan that I would see with a lot of my friends. That was they would get married, and about 3 years in, the wife would be like, "I'm not okay with you being gone all the time. You're missing all the events, and I'm going to friends' weddings by myself or parties by myself." And so they in year 4, they're like, "Okay, well, I'm gonna stay home more and just do local work and not travel as much." And by the end of the 4th year, it's like, "Hey, we're tight on the bills. You're not making money like you used to.
Yeah,
like
it's a
you need to
vicious
make
cycle.
more money." It's like, okay, great. And then year 5, they would go out on tour, and then they would get a divorce.
Yeah.
And I saw that so many times with so many of my friends, and it's unfortunately it's collateral damage of the industry.
It is.
And so and then there are a lot of
Well,
people that have not had to deal with that, and knock on wood, I've been back for 18 years now.
Good
And
for you. It's not easy to do.
had to deal with that. I mean, yeah, there's always ups and downs, and there's always battles about being on the road, but luckily it never came to anything more than just some conversations.
Yeah. I don't know your wife. She's not in the industry though, right?
She is. She's
she
a
is.
producer. Yeah, she's
Oh,
a television producer. Yeah.
okay. Yeah, but not as much travel, I would guess.
Not as much, right? Yeah. And so most of her work, I mean, all of her work is in Vegas. So she doesn't travel for work. When we first met, she would travel a bit, and that's how we met. We met working on a show together.
Okay.
And
how convenient.
Yeah, we were filming a DVD. Ironically, here in Vegas, she lived in LA. I still lived in New York, and we met here in Vegas working on the show. And then we had done a bunch of shows together, where she was the line producer. And but then once we moved to Vegas, then her traveling stopped, and she just did local work.
Right. Yeah.
There's a lot going on in Vegas, and especially now they're building a couple of studios out here. One of our others just announced they would dump in, I think it was like $8 billion into a studio at UNLV, and Mark Wahlberg has his project going on in Summerlin of another studio, and so.
Didn't he cancel that project? I thought he was one of the guys who canceled a studio project.
Maybe I might be.
I know what's his name, Tyler. What's Tyler's?
Oh,
who does all the comedies?
Yeah, Tyler Perry.
Tyler Perry. He canceled one because of AI, I guess. AI just freaked him out, and he said we're not going to need, film studios in the future, and
well, he's got all the studios in Atlanta too. So
yeah. So on family, I went sort of snooping your Facebook yesterday just to get an idea what you were up to, and you and I share one thing in common for sure, that we're both madly in love with our sons.
Yes.
And to again, in your situation, maybe to an extreme, where you're building air-conditioned Wi-Fi tree houses. But an extreme in my situation too, with motor racing. But I saw how your son's doing with martial arts. Like he's winning like state championships and stuff, right?
So this season he was state champion, district champion, and world champion.
World champion?
Yeah, world champion. So there are, so he does Taekwondo. He's a 2nd-degree black belt. In 2 weeks, he's actually testing for his 3rd-degree black belt.
Jesus.
He's been doing it since he's 5. And I don't think I was that dedicated to anything at 12 years old.
That's insane.
But he goes to, goes to like 6 classes a week. Assists and teaches a class once a week, does private lessons, and then tournaments all over the country. And
so when you say world champion, like what, under 13 or under 15 or?
Yeah. So his division was, he won world champion in the 11 and 12-year-old 2nd and 3rd degree black belt division.
Jesus, that's still got to be thousands of kids, though, right?
Yeah, I mean, across it's the U.S., Europe, and South America, and like I have no idea how many kids there
It's
are.
got to be a lot. Yeah,
And then the way
that's
it works,
impressive.
the state champions get to compete for district champion, and then so our division is Nevada, Arizona, and California.
Okay. Wow.
And then there's, with each tournament, there's point ratings and everything. So if you're in the top 10 in the world, you get to compete for world champion. And if you win district champion, you get to compete for world champion. So he had 14 kids in his ring, and they do forms, they do weapons, they do combat, and they do sparring. And so he won world champion in forms.
Jeez, that is so impressive. Like, one of the things I love about martial arts is the discipline involved.
Absolutely.
And, what it really teaches you, not just diet and conditioning and all of the things that any sport teaches you, but the amount of discipline in most of the combat sports, but certainly in martial arts is outrageous.
It's taught him a lot about respect, a lot about discipline, and a lot about work ethic.
Yeah.
And like right now, he's, like I said, in 2 weeks, he's testing for third degree. So he's got a lot of things that he needs to memorize and know and do for his testing. And, it can be overwhelming. And
yeah.
But working with him and letting him know, like, don't think of everything, because then you're just going to get overwhelmed and you're going to start to shut down and not know where to even begin. So just take everything, task at hand, just do one task at a time and just focus on that. And, to learn that at such an early age.
Yeah.
And work ethic. And, I tell him all the time, I don't really care about the medals. The medals are nice, but that's not why I enjoy him being in Taekwondo. I know that when he goes into the job market and everything, like, he's not going to just be, and
he ain't going to settle for average.
73 sitting in a cubicle just typing away numbers at.
Yeah.
He's do something, whatever it is that he decides, but he's going to, put his full effort into it. And it's going to be, I think there's a difference between job and career.
Yeah.
And he's not going to just have a job. He's going to have a career. He's going to be passionate about
something. No, my son's exactly the same. I'm not worried about him. He's going to find his way, and he decided college ain't for me. I want to race until I can't anymore, and so on. But these kids aren't going to settle for average. Like when you're conditioned from a young age, and my son started at just 7, and when you're conditioned and you're constantly being told that's not enough, and you need an extra, you need 2 more tenths, you need this, and I'm sure it's the same with your son. They're not suddenly just going to become average humans. They're used to competing well above average, and they're not going to become average humans all of a sudden. So they're not going to settle for just whatever you throw to me, a job in the warehouse or whatever. Not that there's anything wrong with that.
No, not at all.
They're going to shoot for the stars, right? Yeah. Always, in every aspect of life. Women, they're not going to settle for, they're not going to have ugly wives, these boys. They're just not, I know it already. So were you a fan? Were you like a martial arts fan? Is that what drove him?
No. It oddly enough, it started when he was 5. He was doing soccer and he wasn't really enjoying it. And I was on the road talking with the wife, and he was like, yeah, so what should we try next? And I was like, well, he was watching at the time. It was some Lego cartoon called Ninjago.
Okay.
And they did spin jitsu. I'm like, so maybe try jujitsu. So he went and did a jujitsu class, one of the free, classes and trial classes. And he did it. And he was like, yeah, it was okay, but it was a lot of rolling around. I want to punch and kick things. Like, all right, well.
Fun. Me too.
Let's Oh, great. So then we did a trial class at this Taekwondo studio, and the best salesman, like he was enjoying the class, and then at the end they let him break a board, and it was like eighth
Yeah.
of an inch balsa
I
wood,
think they're pre-broken too, those things.
and he got, at the end of the class, he got to punch this wooden board and break it in half, and you just saw the light in his eye from that moment on. He was like, yes, this is what I want to do.
That was it.
And that
Yeah.
was, and
Yeah.
so, he started doing it, and then we found out about tournaments, and he went and did a tournament, and he was like, oh, I get to compete in this and go up
Wow.
against people. Absolutely. So now, like, it's on average every other weekend that we're at a tournament all over the country.
I know, I know that lifestyle so well. Like, so I tried, I am a huge UFC fan, and I was for years and years. Like, I was a UFC fan when it was, George was the LD, and, what's his name? The guy from Pennsylvania who had the small lighting company, Rich something. Oh, I forget the name of his company. But he did all the lighting for it, and they went to like Alabama and Arkansas and stuff. They couldn't go to any of the real places,
Right.
And so I was a big fan, and when we were looking at my son when he was, I think he was 6 or 7, and you got to get in some kind of sport, and we tried. I don't remember if it was karate or something, but we put him in a class, and my son's 6'4", he was always like above the 100th percentile, always super tall. So, he's 7 years old or whatever, and they put him in sparring against a kid who was like 11, and the kid kicked him once in the head, and his mouthpiece went flying, and then kicked him again in the head and knocked out half of his teeth. And that was it. Like, I was like, okay, we're not going to do this one,
Yeah.
And because they put him in based on height, not on age. And, I would have kicked the guy's ass, but he was however many degree black belt and would have killed me. But I was so angry at this person for putting him in with an 11-year-old kid. It was like, what are you doing?
Yeah, my son did that, in class, there's, 18-year-olds that he goes against, and it's like,
But he knows what he's doing.
It's a combat sport, so
Yeah.
you got to expect you might get hurt, and
Yeah.
and you might hurt someone,
Yeah.
and, that's just
No, I
that's
mean, so we went to something much safer, motorsports, and put him in a
much
racing
safer.
cart,
Yeah.
and it's funny because
100 miles an hour is way safer.
yeah. Me and Donnie Ladico are the idiots here because, I don't care if you got 6 private lessons a week and you got tournaments all over the world and all this stuff. You could buy him new gloves and a new whatever, the gi or whatever it's called. You could buy that every week and you still won't be covering, a quarter of the cost of motorsports. It's like I have friends whose kids are in travel hockey, and they're like, you wouldn't believe what it costs. And I'm like, oh yeah, I would. You want to compare notes?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Well, I think all the travel, no matter what it is, whether it be racing or football, basketball, or taekwondo, martial arts, I've said that I think the Korean to English translation for taekwondo is "take my dough."
that's hilarious. That's funny.
It does it. It racks up between the hotels, the airfare, the boarding the dogs every time we go out. Eating out. And of course all the tournaments are in like downtown areas, so it's not like the prices at restaurants are cheap. And it adds up. But at the end of the day, it's worth it as to watch your kid doing it and to enjoy it. It's
Well, where you say like we're doing tournaments twice a month, I go back and I look at these, when my son was kart racing from 7 years old up till he was, I think he quit at 13 or 14 is when he went to cars. And in karts, though, we were racing like all the tracks are outside the city, like in the middle of nowhere. And so you're staying at a Hampton Inn or a Holiday Inn Express if you're lucky, the god awful Express if you're not so lucky. And but I look back at that with such joy, because it's my son and I were together sharing a hotel room every couple of weeks, getting up at 5:30 or 6 o'clock in the morning to rush over to a racetrack and spending the entire day there, then going out to dinner with our team at night or whatever. And, it was such a great way to really bond with my kid, which I'm sure you're going through all the same stuff.
Yeah, yeah, because we do the same thing. We're up at like 5:30. We're
Yeah.
the tournament at 7, and because we're there at opening ceremonies and bowing, and then we're there until about 5 or 6 at night. Even though he might have competed at 9 o'clock,
Yeah.
and he's done by 10.
Yeah.
But then he'll go and he'll score keep and he'll judge and he'll do stuff like that during the tournament, and we're there until the very end.
Yeah.
And then we go out to dinner with all of his teammates and one and
Yep.
do that. And so, the friendships that he's building with his other taekwondo classmates and everything, like
It don't go away.
that's core of his friends. Like
Same with my son.
are from taekwondo, and then he's got a few from school and but 90% of his friends are from taekwondo.
Well, my son was homeschooled because of racing, and so he doesn't have any friends from school, hardly any, anyways.
Really?
He stopped going to regular school, I think, in 5th grade, maybe 6th grade, and because he was just traveling too much, and I was getting in too much trouble from the schools and stuff. So, so we just put him in homeschool. And but the friends at the track, like he's got friends in South America, all over Europe, Asia, really good friends, that he talks to all the time and stuff. It's a very international sport, and I just think that I've given him an unfair advantage with the 12 or 13 years that we've been in motorsport, because he's just an edge above all of his friends and stuff as far as his some of his abilities, but his just strength as a human, his courage, because if you're willing to go this far away from a wall at 150 miles an hour over and over again for a couple of hours, like that's a special sort of skill that not a lot of people have, So, but anyways, people are probably getting bored listening to us talk about our kids, but it's so similar, regardless of what sport they're in. It's just so similar to see these kids so committed and passionate about something, and what that really builds in them as humans, and the foundation it gives them as humans. Like, I'll tell you what, I'd hire a Taekwondo champion or a racing champion any day above a kid who excelled in school.
Yeah. I didn't find a passion until I was 18 when I got into this industry.
Yeah.
And to find something that he's this passionate about at 5 years old, like he's definitely has the advantage on me when it comes to,
Well, for me, I did, girls, music,
Right.
I was a musician. Neither of them, seemed to help my life very much, but, at least these guys are doing something productive. But no, it's very cool. Like I said, I was so happy when I found all those posts on your Facebook, because, I was like, wow, he's killing it. It's just like Donnie Ladico, I feel half responsible for getting him into racing, because I think maybe he saw some posts or something and said, hey, kid, you should try this, even though he's never said that to me. But, watching Luca, his kid, excelling at that sport, like, and we're talking about maybe my son Jeremy's going to start doing some sim coaching for him and stuff. It's cool. It's just really cool. It's fun. It's cool.
I'm wondering if just, this industry and the way we're so passionate about this industry, if that rubs off on our kids, because you look at like Greg Jones and his daughter with tennis.
Exactly.
There's so many people in this industry that, you look at their kids and at an early age, they're so passionate and so dedicated to whatever it is, whether it be a sport or, some sort of, event or thing that they're doing, and they're so dedicated to it. And, and I think it must come from the parents in this industry.
Featherstone's two daughters.
Yeah.
John Featherstone's two daughters, they're both very talented lighting people in their own rights, and I mean, you see a lot of that too. And I have not pushed my son at all to get into our industry, not because I hate our industry or anything, but if he wants to do it, he'll come to me, I could make a couple calls and get him out on a tour as a fourth or fifth or sixth or whatever, and go tour for a couple of years and just be a grunt and see the world and get that out of your system, have some fun. But he just hasn't shown any desire to do it. So, I ain't pushing him. I don't care.
No, I think this is an amazing industry. Do I want my son in it? Not particularly, not because I don't enjoy the industry. It's we all want better for our kids, right? And I think even a doctor, if they're, just like a general, practitioner or whatever, they want their kid to be a heart surgeon or a brain surgeon.
Yeah.
So you always want better for your kid, and so I want him to be, not having to wonder where the next gig is coming from, and that kind of all the negative things of this industry. There are a few negatives in the industry. So
there are.
You don't want to see your kids struggle and do any of the when we all started
the dumb stuff.
Struggling when we all started, and so you don't want to see that for your kids. So,
but at the same time, if you can somehow get rid of those negatives, it is an incredible industry. It is think of the countries and places you wouldn't have seen had you never.
Yep.
And it's like when I look at go-kart racing, for example, I saw parts of the country that I never would have seen if it wasn't for that. Or our industry, I've been to multiple countries in Asia, most of the countries in Europe, and I never toured. I've always just been on the business side or the sales side of our industry. And, I've been to a lot of places because of our industry, because of the job. And so I guess when you talk about our industry, like straight hardcore touring, you got to be a special person. But when you get into jobs like yours and mine and so many other people who are supporting the industry, it's a great industry because you don't have to go riding tour buses, but you still get some of the benefits of the industry, You still get to see, even if you're once removed, you get to see the show happen and feel a bit of pride because of it, because you were involved somehow.
Yeah. Well, and I think the thing for me with now being on this side of the industry was that I was on the other side for so long. So being able to tap into previous experiences in this new role, definitely make the transition to this office role and an easier transition because I have 30 years of touring under the belt and dealing with different personalities, different putting out different fires and
well, there's another thing, you understand the urgency because you've been on the receiving end of a lighting package that's missing one component or that, the console didn't show up or something happened or the lights weren't properly cleaned and prepped or, the gobos were in the wrong positions or whatever it was, right? You've been in those situations. So now that what that feels like to be on the receiving end, right? So I think that's a huge plus. I don't think anyone should be sitting in my seat, without that, in your seat without that experience. I didn't have that experience, but I had such a compassion for the people who did. And so I was always, I did whatever they told me to do, even if they were lying. I didn't know when they were lying. That was the problem. So sometimes I jumped through hoops I probably shouldn't have jumped through or gave discounts that I shouldn't have given or whatever. I don't care. That for me, that was just the lack of the touring experience or whatever that I didn't have. So, yeah. What do you think about the industry today? Where do you think we're at? Are we in a good place, bad place, somewhere in between?
So I think we're. It depends. I think the state of the industry now is I think very much in limbo. I think we're getting back to there used to be a time when even before I got into the industry, but I sort of came in on the tail end of it where there wasn't a lot of off-the-shelf product.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of everything was pretty much custom, custom trussing and this, and so designs were very elaborate and very unique, and then standardized trussing started coming into play, and shows started to get a little on the boring side, so to speak, because everyone is working within the same framework. And I think now we're getting to a point where people are starting to use these standard things in new and different ways. And like you look at shows like the Timberlake with the giant monolith and and stuff like that, and the technology that we have now combined with the off the shelf, so you're getting these more custom sort of shows with custom pieces, and so shows now are not just, okay, here's, a couple of trusses above the stage and here's some lighting. Like now it's getting back to full production designs and these really amazing looking shows and these stages. So that part I really love seeing the industry moving into that direction. But with the economy and everything else now, it's there's so much up in the air that it's like, well, do we want to spend the money to do this? Do we not want to spend the money? And I'm like, you were saying how Sarah's going to Blink 182, and like looking at the plot on that. Again, they're doing some some cool stuff with a lot of automation and some really interesting, fun stuff on the automation aspect that has been being used a lot now because prices have come down on automation.
Right, yeah.
Came out, it was, you only had one or two companies doing it, and it was really expensive. And, now the prices have come down, so you're starting to see a lot more automation on shows. And
well, the other thing to add to that is it's amazing to me now how many lighting companies have their own fabrication shops within the lighting companies, so you don't have to go to Tate for everything. Tate, not only are they expensive, but they're very busy.
Right.
And so, if I've got an arena act that wants some custom stuff, we can do it right here in our own fabrication shop, right?
Right. Well, I'm saying that's what it was in like the late 70s, 80s, early 90s. Every lighting shop had their wood shop and their metal shop, and they would build stuff constantly for their shows. And then that sort of went away. Oh, now we have, the Thomas Truss, and we have the Tomcat, and we have all this. We don't need the metal shop as much anymore.
Right, yeah.
So we're not. So that sort of went away in like the late 90s and the 2000s and the 2010s. And, now here we are in 24, and that's starting to come back where, lighting shops have, fab shops and metal shops and wood shops and starting to, produce these things. And it started happening a few years ago. And I think the smaller shows, the smaller tours really pushed that, because instead of just coming in and putting 20 lights on the floor or whatever, they were, building these carts. And, and it sort of started from there and sort of grew out.
That was an example I was going to use. Your old employer, Volt, building all those carts and racks and stuff where, why should we go spend $2,000 for a case for the light to live in when it's going to end up on a rack, or on something?
Yeah, you look at squeak lights out in New York, they're doing the same thing, and building these, these really cool cart set piece lighting, things that can easily roll in and roll out for some smaller theater and club tours and everything. And then, and then that sort of creativity is just grown into now the larger scale shows of like, oh, wait, how can we use this differently? How can we use this, more creatively? And
it makes so much sense.
Straight truss,
Yeah. Well, and lights now, not only are they tougher and built so that they can live in truss or live in carts or racks or whatever, but they're also, so many of them are IP rated now. Yeah. And so even the dust in the shops and all of that stuff isn't a problem for it. So they don't need to be babied in flight cases anymore.
Right.
And so I think that's a really cool trend, because cases seem so wasteful to me when it comes to certain products.
Yeah.
And
with the LED technology, you don't have to worry about the lamp bouncing around and stuff like that, as well. And so definitely the technology of the fixtures says, everything is all hand in hand, right? It all works to get us to where we are. And just loved watching the industry grow again.
Hell yes. Yeah. So speaking of growth, like state of the industry, so, if I was to sit down and ask someone at Live Nation, they'd say there's no end in sight. The sky's the limit. These shows are going to keep getting bigger and bigger and selling more and more tickets. And there's going to be more dates announced and more this and more that, more everything. Do you think that level of growth that we've seen over the past couple of years is sustainable, like where arena bands are playing in stadiums and theater bands are playing in arenas? And
Well, I think it all depends on the state of the world as well, because like I think coming out of COVID, again, I hate to keep going back because that was about 4 years ago, but I think coming out of that, like people were so desperate for entertainment, from not having anything, there was no new TV shows, there was no new movies, there was no nothing, and they came out of it with this just desire for. I think it reignited for a lot of people, stuff that they hadn't done in a long time. Like you have guys that, I haven't been to a concert in 15 years, and now all of a sudden coming out of COVID, they're like, all I want to do is go see a concert. And they're going to concerts all the time. So,
well, when you take something away from people, they want it 10 times as bad.
And they realize what they were missing. And so I think that I don't know if it's sustainable to continue to grow. I think it will plateau at a certain point.
Right.
But I don't think it's gonna go back down unless there's a huge economic crisis or something like that. And then I think even if there is, I think coming out of that economic crisis, it's gonna get right back to where it was.
Well, I've gone to this point a bunch of times, but Rapino, the CEO at Live Nation, in a report last year sometime, he made a really interesting point, which is that most of these artists during COVID leaned into all the online stuff really, really hard.
Yeah.
Especially on social media. Yeah. And so you've got the Jelly Rolls of the world who built multi-million followers on different platforms. And Rapino's point was, my job's easy. All I have to do is sell tickets to 5% of their followers.
Right.
And when you look at it like that, you go, wow, there's a lot of open capacity there. Like there's a lot of stuff. If I increase that number to 15% from 5%, you're talking about, 1 million concert tickets globally, right? And if I can sell 1 million tickets for Jelly Roll, now I'm looking to get more stadium shows in there and more. Like it blows me away the number of country artists doing stadium tours right now.
That's a good point, though, of how social media definitely impacts. Because you look at, like Benson Boone, he's doing an arena tour coming up here soon, and but was just a guy that was, making some music and started to get a following on social media, and then before you know it, like he had one song that everyone was using in their TikTok videos as their background music or whatever. And all of a sudden it's like, who is this guy? Oh, it's Benson Boone. And everyone started downloading his music off the SoundCloud or whatever. And now he's got this huge following and he's doing arena tours and, and it's all because of social media.
Yeah. And this is the new world that we're in right now. Like, social media and live events feed each other, as opposed to live events and album sales used to, right? Now it's a whole different thing.
The only way we found out about a new artist was either hearing them on the radio or a buddy of ours told us about it.
Yeah. Now you can.
So many artists out there that have this new outlet to reach millions of people worldwide, not even just locally,
Yeah, no, you create these online phenomenons and it's, people are just dying to go out and see what they look like live or how they sound live or whatever. I mean, what's that music called? The Japanese music, that all the young people go nuts over. K-pop? Is that what it's called?
Yeah, K-pop.
Yeah. I mean, I don't get it, like, at all. And it's not targeting me, so I guess I shouldn't get it. Right. But I'm just going like, what? They're making how much? They're selling how many tickets? I know so many dads of daughters who are flying their kids around the country to go see these K-pop artists.
Yeah, there was
And I'm
some
like,
about BTS K-pop,
yeah,
and
yeah,
like their revenue is like a huge portion of South Korea's
wow,
national income.
that is
All
incredible.
based off
Yeah,
of this band, you
that is
know.
incredible. That's wild. Yeah, so I mean, the good news for our industry is that there does appear to be a lot of truth to what Rapino was saying about, social media continuing to drive our industry. And when you look at some of these artists that I had never heard of, and then
Right.
I realized later that they built their entire following on social media, and then boom, they came out and did an arena tour was their first tour. They didn't go through clubs to like the old method was let's start in clubs, we'll gain some popularity, we'll sell a few albums, then we'll be able to have a big enough audience to go to theaters. And now
And
it's
that's only
just
if you got out of the bar scene,
if
you
you
know.
got out of the bar scene. I never
Yeah.
did. When I was a musician, I never did.
Well,
So
and I think the other thing with the reason why shows have been grown is because of the social media, is because there's this mentality of keeping up with the Joneses, right?
right.
So now I'm going to go do my first arena tour. Well, I can't just be on stage I can't pull the Ed Sheeran with just me, a microphone, and one backlight.
Yeah.
Like I need to put on this elaborate show, and I need to have all the theatrics, and I need to have all the bells and whistles because this guy just did that, so I have to do that, and I got to one up because it's going to be all over social media, and everyone's
Yeah.
going to see it. So the social media is driving some of that as well, of how big your show is going to be and how much,
Yeah.
creativity is going to be in it. And
Well, just look at Taylor Swift and Beyonce. I mean, like one
Right.
goes out on tour and I've got to have this big of a rig and this many lights, and then you gotta know they're paying attention.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
Taylor's going to her team and going, how many moving lights did Beyonce have on her rig?
Right.
And they'll
Yeah.
say 1,000, and she'll say, I want 1,500.
Yeah.
I mean,
Oh, I'm
you
sure. Yeah.
you got to know that stuff's happening.
Yeah.
But I've also heard sort of in the background, I've heard that there's a shift happening where a lot of artists, and I could mention some names, but I won't because then I could get in trouble. But there are some major stadium touring artists right now who are replacing management teams and replacing people. And the big thing is they're trying to cut expenses. They're looking at the end of the day, they're going, we're pulling in, let's just make up numbers, $10 million a week, and we're paying out $9.5 million or $9 million a week. This isn't sustainable.
Right.
If we have a problem or anything breaks or something goes wrong or we have to cancel a tour, we go from making a little bit of money to losing money very quickly.
Yeah.
And so, I've definitely heard that you're seeing a lot more, and you might know this firsthand, but there's a lot more negotiations going on between production management and lighting vendor, video vendor, audio vendor on, hey, we need to cut, $200,000 a week out of this budget. How can we do it?
Yeah. Yeah. It's definitely very budget conscious. And I think, again, it's because, like you said, they're making X amount per week or per month. And, and
they're just seeing it all go out.
They're just seeing it all go away. And they're trying to figure out, okay, well, what are our costs? Where can we cut money? And, and they're, like you say, cutting down on some management. And it's like, well, do we really need 4 managers? Do we really need all of this? Like, and I think this younger generation, because they're building themselves on social media and they're sort of self-promoted and self-grown. And, whereas before it was you had to get signed by a record label, you had to get noticed by a scout or whatever. And they're doing it on their own. They're like, well, why do I need these people? I got here by myself.
Right.
And for some of them, that's sustainable for an amount of time. But when you want to get into the larger shows and the bigger record contracts and the bigger this, you are going to need some sort of management. And, so there's a fine line between how many people are on staff and how many people are just there taking money from you that you don't need.
Yeah.
So
No,
it's a fine line.
It's very true. So I don't know.
I think that line is definitely
It
shifting.
is.
There are more people that are unnecessary, especially because of the social media and own promotion, and they're getting replaced. I could replace 3 guys with one person that's sitting there just posting on social media all day long.
Yeah. Well, the other thing is, like, you're seeing just more artists who are becoming much more, I think, involved in the business end of the business. They're getting smarter. Artists are not just pop stars anymore. And, Taylor's a good example of somebody who really started looking at the business end of the business. And so, Metallica is a good example. We were just talking about them. Like, in the 70s and 80s, you saw bands like Journey being the one that comes to mind right away, who were buying gear. And they owned their own gear because they were like, hey, if we're going to tour all year, every year, why should we be paying this money out? And plus, we can't get big enough lighting packages, or we can't get availability on the right sound system or whatever. So we want to take more control in-house. So they started their own lighting company or sound company or production company. And so in the 70s and 80s, that was very common because, if you needed a big sound system, you had to bring it with you, and you owned it most of the time. Supertramp is another one. Like, there was a lot of bands who owned their own gear. Pink Floyd owned a sound company. And I'm starting to see that coming back around, like Metallica own all their video screens and their speaker cabinets, all the boxes, the line array stuff. And, there's a reason behind that. Yes, we're going to change which lights we use and how many of them and the shape of the truss and the shape of this and the stage and whatever. We're going to change that every year, but we're not going to change the fact that we're going to have a video screen. We're not going to change the fact that we have speakers. We don't need new ones every single year. So,
well, and that's the difference with lighting and video. Is, you go to any arena show and it's pretty much the same audio rig. This might be
true.
This cabinet and this is a different cabinet, but it's the same. A line arrays, subs on the floor, blah blah blah.
And video screens, other than the pixel, pitch of the screen, they're all the same, right? Like, you're talking about roughly this dimensions times however many to make it whatever eventual size we want. But that size isn't going to change. Like, if it's the entire back of the stage, then that's going to be the same basic dimensions. And if we need to shrink it by a few panels in a smaller venue or whatever, but they're commodity types of components, I guess, at this point, right? So, there is something to be said.
And always changing, and
Yeah. I mean, I guess
it's really different.
Yeah. The challenge with that is it takes away some revenue for the rental company, of course. Like, I think Four Wall is doing the video for Metallica. I think that's what he told me. And, they're not renting the panels to Metallica. But the funny thing is, and Metallica may or may not know this, but panels have gone from like $500 or $600 per tile not that long ago to like $40 now. They've gone down a lot in rental prices, and it really is a commodity now. And so I don't know that it's worth owning it for these bands, that item anyways.
Right. Yeah. I mean, at some point, like you said, if the prices are coming down that low, it's probably not worth it to buy. But
because you got to maintain it, and you got to
maintain it. You gotta you gotta repair it. You got there's definitely costs. You got to insure it. Which is a big cost. As well. So if you rent it, especially when the prices start going as low as they're going on some stuff, like I'm paying more in insurance to own it than I am to rent it.
Yeah.
So
that's true, huh? Yeah. Motors fall into that category.
You have to have that, multi-million-dollar policy.
Yeah.
And, that's not cheap.
Yeah. Yeah, no, like I know a lot of rental companies that don't own motors anymore because they're like, I can go rent them from Christie or these guys for, $40 or whatever. It's not worth doing all the stuff that you have to do to keep them
certified.
Certified. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
and the just the liability alone.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, I wanted to ask you, because I keep seeing this pop up and your name's attached to it, this Goo Goo Dolls rain thing.
Oh,
Because it just came up. I think it's an anniversary or something of the.
it is the anniversary, and
Yeah.
that was a punch out with Donnie Ladico.
Right. Yeah. I think he might be the one who just posted it recently and said it's the whatever anniversary of the 4th of July Goo Goo Dolls.
When was that? That was, I think it might be the 20-year anniversary.
Yeah, it could be.
Yeah, I
Could
think it's
be.
the 20-year anniversary. But Goo Goo Dolls were doing a 4th of July show in Buffalo, their hometown, in front of Town Hall.
Okay.
And so me and Donnie Ladico got to do it. And we had Chris Trosper and Mike Finn were our
That's
techs
a
on
fun
it.
group.
And love those guys dearly. And so we're lighting the entire building of City Hall and put a stage right on the staircase. And we have truss towers in between the big marble columns of Town Hall and everything. And Ani DeFranco is the opening act. So she goes on, and gorgeous weather, gorgeous day, everything's fine. Starts to rain towards the end. Goo Goo Dolls come out, and show starts, and it just starts pouring.
Oh, no.
Pouring. Sideways rain. I think it was 8 inches in an hour, the most rain
Jesus.
Buffalo has seen since 1921 or something like that. And you can watch the DVD, and it's just watching the degradation of the lighting rig. Because all of a sudden, this tower isn't working anymore. These lights aren't working anymore. And it's just slowly but surely, the lighting rig is just
to pieces.
falling to pieces. Nothing was IP rated back then, you know.
Yeah.
And it was like a bunch of Techno Beams and Mac 2Ks and some of the brand new Roby. It was like the Roby 1200 spot. It was like one of their first fixtures. And
yeah, I saw Tony Perez commenting about that. Wasn't those Roby color spot 80?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was such a memorable show, and especially because there's the DVD of it, to watch this rig just dying. And me and Donnie spent so much time prevising, and prevising wasn't really a big thing back then. And me and Donnie sat in the hotel room and just previs a bunch of it, and it was an early ESP Vision project.
Okay. Who was the supplier? Was it C Factor?
No, it was PRG.
Okay.
Yeah, PRG was the supplier. I believe I want to say Bob Looney was our rep.
Oh, fun.
And so the show's going, and like the lighting rig is done. Nothing is working. And I'm still sitting there hitting cues. And at one point, Ladico looks over and goes, "What are you doing? Like, nothing's working." I'm like, "We wrote these cues. I'm running these cues."
That's
because
hilarious.
We got Mike Finn and Chris Trosper out there. And if anyone's going to get this rig working, it's them.
Yeah.
It was like we started losing spotlights. And, Mike Finn was like opening a breaker box and swapping out breakers live.
Oh, my God.
Like, dude, what are you doing? He was like, "You want the spotlight to work, right?" I'm like,
Yeah.
"Dude, you're crazy, but thank you."
Yeah.
Because
Wow.
it was the only light, and it's being filmed, right? And and then at the end of the night, it's like we have this big confetti cue, and there's like the big blowers, the big confetti blowers with the giant
Cannons. Yeah.
And we have the red, white, and blue not mylar, tissue paper, and Chris Trosper's like, oh, what are we doing? Are we doing the confetti? And me and Ladico looking at each other like, "Well, we gotta do the confetti."
What?
And he's like, "Go confetti." So the confetti starts going, and we just see it just sticking to people. And
Oh, my God. What a mess.
Paper mache people. And me and Donnie are laughing hysterically in front of the house.
Oh, my God.
We hear Trosper on headset cracking up, and we'll just like dump it all. Just keep dumping it. You just
Let's
see
make
these
this
people,
memorable.
paper mache, crepe
That's
people.
so funny.
And we're just cracking up hysterically. And
That's
then
funny.
the show finishes, and there's supposed to be this big firework show afterwards. And when Johnny Resnick says, "Thank you, good night," it's like someone realized they left the faucet on, because as soon as he says goodnight and turns and walks off the stage, it stops raining. Just
Jesus.
completely stops. And so it was like, oh, it stopped raining. All right, well, go fireworks. So then they have the big fireworks show. But to be able to watch that and have that all caught on camera and be able to watch that DVD
That's
and just
hilarious.
relive those moments of just, oh my God, like we put so much work into the show and no one's ever going to get to see it. And just
Yeah.
watching the lighting rig. And when you first start losing lights, you're like, oh, Trostberg, we lost fixture 207. Oh, we lost fixture, 513. And then
Yeah.
finally, yeah, we just lost the whole truss. Yeah.
Do you remember what the last song was when all the paper mache was happening, the confetti?
I want to say
I want to go look it up on YouTube.
I think it was Give a Little Bit, because they had just done the cover remake of Give a Little Bit.
Okay.
So I think that was the last song.
I'm gonna go see if I can find it on YouTube, because I want to see that now. And I don't have a DVD player.
Yeah.
So yeah.
But that was an amazing show, and to do it with Donnie, like, and me and Donnie had worked together.
Well, and Finn
and we had co-designed a bunch of shows together, and and Trostber's amazing, Mike Finn is amazing, so again, like we were talking about, these experiences that we've had that not this like never have those kinds of experiences.
Yeah. No, so that's so cool.
To be able to have those experiences with people that you enjoy, and
hell yeah, that's what it's all about.
And now to be able to relive it all just by just watching the DVD and showing my kid, hey, this is something I did 20 years.
He's probably going, Dad, why?
Yeah,
why?
Yeah,
like that looks so miserable.
My kid likes to give me a hard time, telling me, you were born in like the mid 1900s. I'm like, oh, so much, son.
Yeah. Well,
you make me sound so old when you put it that way, but
yeah,
you're not wrong.
Yeah, it's totally true. Yeah, I mean, when I start thinking, like, when you think that Goo Goo Dolls show was 20 years ago, it's got to freak you out a little bit, because it's like I remember my first LDI show, and when I start thinking about it, I go, that was like 35 years ago or something, and I'm thinking, what? So
I was having a conversation with someone the other day, and I was like, oh yeah, no, we've known each other for what? It's got to be like 10, 12 years. And he looks at me and goes, dude, we met in like 98. Like,
yeah, that's funny.
But
like, 98 feels like 10, 12 years ago, doesn't it?
Yeah, I was like, oh God, yeah,
So one more question I want to ask you. Do you have any current favorite gear at all? Like stuff that you're just going, wow, I really love this thing?
Well, in the new role, my answer is my favorite piece of gear is the one that doesn't sit on the shelf.
Right. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
But as far as artistically, there's so many cool fixtures out there now. There's like the Acme Pulsar 2 with the double-sided with the strobe and the grid and the stuff like that, or the
that's cool.
And then like the fixtures that are coming out now, or some of them are one-trick ponies, but some of them I think are have legs, like that are implemented in the Mac 1.
Yeah, that thing's cool.
Such an awesome fixture, because like it almost is a throwback to the old VL5 look.
Yeah.
And so there's so much versatility.
Well, just the size makes it so versatile.
You could put it in set pieces and just scatter hundreds of them around the stage.
Well, and those 4-bar things that you can get with it, like just send a couple of those out for a trade show booth or whatever, and you're good, right?
Now the ability to push video through some of these fixtures, like the Mac 1 or the or a Pixel, or some of these other the Roby Spider or something like that. I remember trying to emulate that with like pixel mapping in the MA1 with some of these fixtures, and trying to do this, and now you just video through it, and it's like so much more versatility and so much creativity that could be done with them. So those are the kinds of I like, that aren't standard. Just here's a spot, here's a lot. Something that has for lack of a better term, a gag.
Yeah.
But they're not really gag lights. They're
Well, because other than that, all the companies are the same now. Everything is good. Like, who 10 years ago, you couldn't have told me that you'd use a bunch of American DJ stuff on a professional show, or on a job, right? But today it's good. Like, that ADJ stuff is really good now,
Water and John Dunn and Brian Matthieson, like, they've done a great job on taking lights that you used to buy at, Guitar Center to a professional market. Same with Chauvet. Chauvet has some decent fixtures, but,
but the stuff's all good now. It really is. Like, it's, there is definitely some stuff that's better, like some stuff that I would trust a lot more. If I'm going to put it out on a, 6-month cruise ship thing that they're not coming back for service or whatever, I might pick this line over this line or whatever. Like Robe and Ayrton are probably, a little bit above some of the other ones when it comes to quality and price. They're more expensive and all that kind of stuff. But now Elation is excellent. Like you said, Chauvet is very good. It's all good. It's all just so good. And I guess kids nowadays are spoiled, but then
is like, Studio Color and Studio Spot or Mac 500 or Mac 600. Like
exactly.
That was it. And
and back in my day, it was even before you had moving heads like that, so. Yeah.
But when moving lights came out, like that those were your options, really.
But you're right though. The brands are all a little bit like ubiquitous, where it's like I could use Clay Packy, I could use Martin, I could use this, I could use this. You could pick a line and you can get a wash, a spot, a profile of this or that, a beam. But then you look for the eye candy fixtures where one jumps out above the rest and does whether it's a gag or multiple gags, but it's different for whatever reason, and the Mac 1 falls into that. I think if the US weren't so goofy with how we managed laser through the Food and Drug Administration, which makes no sense whatsoever, but that little new fixture from Ayrton really blows me away, the little 100-watt laser phosphor Kailami, I think it's called. That thing is incredible just because of the form factor. It's this tiny little thing, and the beam just blows my mind. So
this laser excited phosphor fixtures are really impressive because you don't need the variance for them because the laser is not coming out of the fixture. Whereas, at least so
you're wrong. You're wrong. There's very few of them that have managed to get around the variance, but most of them, even this 100-watt Kailami, is supposed to be less powerful than needs any kind of a variance, and it goes through all those things and stuff, but it still has to have a variance, and the Cobras and the Stilos has to have a variance. So it's stupid, it's pointless, because point a Sharpie at your head, and that's going to do more eye damage than a Kailami or a Stilos is,
Melted a lot of stages with Sharpies.
Exactly. I mean, they're dangerous little fixtures.
And then have 200 of them on one spot. And suddenly you get the carpenters yelling at you that you're burning the stage.
Or people lighting cigarettes from the Sharpies or whatever, I mean, it's crazy, but there's a lot of really good stuff out there right now. It's an exciting time from a standpoint of how good everything is, and it's all really well built and really reliable and all that kind of stuff.
Like, I'll get plots now from people that it's just hard edge wash light. Like, they don't even specify. It's like
good.
Just need 20 hard edge and 20 wash lights on this truss and X amount on this truss. But then I need the Mac 1, or I need the, Septrons, or I need the Pixel line, or I need, like those kind of things, those they're specific about. But as far as the hard washes, I mean, everything has gotten so good to this point now where it's like, it doesn't matter which manufacturer it is.
That's how it should be, though. That's really how it should be. Let the rental company manage their own inventory. Like, don't force them to go out and buy or sub-rent 200 of some obscure fixture or something, just because you've cut a deal with the manufacturer or whatever. Like, unless it really is specific, like you said. So, but who are we to tell them what to do?
Exactly. Again,
Craig, I appreciate you taking the time today to
show.
Yeah, exactly. I appreciate you doing this, buddy. It's really good to see you again and to talk to you. And I know you're in a new gig, so you're stealing time from the company, so I can't keep you all day. So,
well, it's great catching up with you. Good talking to you. Good seeing you. And thanks for having me back on.
And you. And don't hang up right away, because I gotta tell you something real quick.
Sounds good.